My name is Lucas. I've worked in Mallgate Center for 6 years. Not as a cashier or a cleaner. I was the night shift supervisor, security. And I thought I'd seen everything a dead mall could throw at you. Until the night Maria disappeared. You know how they say people just vanish? Like they're erased from reality? I never believed that. Not until it happened on my watch. Maria started with us in March. She was quiet, polite. The type who always showed up early, always brought her own thermos of coffee, and never complained, even when the hours were brutal. She said she liked the silence. The emptiness. That the dark didn't bother her. She'd been through a lot, I heard. A rough divorce. Moved back from the city. Needed to reset her life. The night of May 14th was supposed to be routine. I clocked out at 8:45 p.m. She came in right on time, 9 o'clock sharp. Dressed in full uniform, security badge straight, flashlight clipped to her belt, hair tied up like always. She smiled at me. Anything weird tonight? I said, no. Just the usual ghosts. She laughed. We always joked about that. The creaky pipes. The flickering lights. The mannequins that looked like they moved when you weren't looking. You get used to it after a while. At least, I thought we had. The building was locked down by 10. Maria ran the usual patrol, first floor, then food court, then camera checks in the control room. I checked the live feeds from home before bed. Saw her flashlight sweep across the west corridor. Everything looked fine. The last footage we have of her is timestamped 11:47 p.m. She's on camera, walking past storefront 12B. She stops. Looks at something off screen. Tilts her head slightly. Then moves out of frame. That was it. No other angles captured her. No exit doors opened. No alarms tripped. Maria was just gone. Next morning, when I came in, something felt off immediately. Her thermos was still warm. Her jacket was still on the back of the chair. But she was nowhere. I called her name. Checked the break room. The bathrooms. Nothing. The control room's monitors were still running. One of the feeds was paused. Camera 9. West Wing. Frozen on an empty hallway. Except for a flicker in the corner. When I tried to rewind, the system glitched. That never happened before. I called mall operations. Then the police. They showed up fast. Walked the entire premises. No sign of forced entry. No broken locks. No blood. No signs of a struggle. She didn't leave. Didn't vanish into thin air either. But she wasn't there. You can't imagine how that feels. Standing in a building with 100 cameras and still having no clue where a human being went. Like the walls swallowed her whole. They brought in techs to pull security logs. Her last badge swipe was at 10:03 p.m. Near the elevator to the 3rd floor. Problem is, the 3rd floor's been sealed since 2020. An abandoned wing, under renovation for years. We weren't even allowed up there without clearance. Maria shouldn't have had access. Yet the log was there. Want to know what's worse? When I checked her locker later that day, I found a note. It was folded and tucked behind her mirror. Just 6 words written in shaky pen. If I disappear, it found me. I still remember standing there, staring at those words. Hands trembling. Stomach twisting. Because that's when it hit me. She knew. Something was happening, and she knew. After that, things changed. Staff started quitting. Doors would open by themselves at night. Mirrors in the bathrooms fogged up even when no one was inside. And me? I started dreaming of corridors that didn't exist. Endless hallways. Whispering voices. And Maria's face, reflected in the wrong direction. But that's just the beginning. What we found 2 days later. That's when the story really began. And you'll wish it ended here. 2 days after Maria disappeared, I came back on shift. I didn't want to. The place felt wrong. Too quiet. Too aware. That might sound strange, but I swear, the air itself had changed. Like the mall was holding its breath. I was in the security room, reviewing footage again. Camera 9, the last place she was seen, was still glitching. Every time I tried to scrub through the timeline, it skipped or froze. Almost like something didn't want me to see. I was staring at that frozen frame when I got the call. A maintenance worker from Edison Electric was on site, checking breakers on the 3rd floor, the sealed level. They weren't supposed to be up there alone, but somehow, the access system had granted them clearance. Same elevator Maria's badge pinged 2 nights earlier. The guy sounded shaken. Said he saw something strange. Better come see it for yourself, he said. So I went. The 3rd floor hadn't been touched in years. It used to be a mini amusement zone. A mirror maze, small rides, a VR arcade. They shut it down during COVID and never reopened it. Too expensive to update the safety codes. Most of the area was gutted. Dark. Dusty. Forgotten. But in the northwest wing, near the old funhouse, there was one mirror still standing. Floor to ceiling. Dusty around the edges. And right in the center, a palm print. Pressed from the inside. It was perfect. Human-sized. 5 fingers. Smudged like it was made in panic. We stared at it in silence. And then, just before we turned to leave, it changed. Words appeared. Not scratched. Not written in dust. They formed on the glass like condensation. I'm here. Not a mirror, a door. I remember the worker stepping back and whispering, "Did you see that too?" We called mall security. They called the police. And by that evening, the FBI was involved. They sealed the 3rd floor. Taped off the mirror. Brought in equipment to scan for fingerprints, heat signatures, structural weaknesses. They didn't tell us much. But I heard one of the agents say, "This isn't the first." I asked what he meant. He ignored me. The next day, I checked old reports. Turns out Maria wasn't the first to vanish inside that mall. In 2016, a janitor named Vernon Carter went missing. He was last seen cleaning the mirror maze. In 2019, a high school senior, Paige Whitmore, vanished after hours. She was part of a theater group rehearsing for a Halloween show in the same section of the mall. Neither case was solved. No bodies. No leads. Both files, cold. And both last seen within 100 feet of that mirror. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing her reflection in my mind. Not Maria as she was, but Maria, trying to get out. I went back the next morning. Told myself I just wanted to check the area. But really, I wanted to know if I was losing my mind. The mirror was still there. Now surrounded by red tape, yellow lights, armed guards. But the print was gone. Wiped. Clean. Still, I stood there. Staring into the glass. And then I saw it. Not a face. Not a figure. A flicker. A ripple in the reflection. Like heat rising off pavement. It moved independently from me. I leaned closer. The surface pulsed. Just for a second. And deep inside it, so deep I almost didn't believe it. I saw lights. Moving. Like a hallway. Lit from within. But the mall has no hallway behind that wall. Then I noticed something else. Someone had taped a cardboard scrap near the security panel. A torn piece from a shipping box. And on it, a message, scribbled in black marker. They're watching. The mirrors aren't reflections. They're listening. If I'm gone, don't look for me. And don't stare into them too long. They can hear thoughts. It was her handwriting. Maria's. I showed it to the FBI. They took it without a word. I never saw that note again. So now we had a message, a handprint, a witness. But still no Maria. No explanation. And worse, no denial. The agents weren't laughing. No one was rolling their eyes. They were afraid too. That told me everything I needed to know. 2 days later, that mirror would change again. And this time, she wouldn't just write to us. She would show herself. After the chilling discovery on the 3rd floor, things started to unravel faster than anyone expected. The FBI had arrived, and their presence changed everything. They sealed off the mirror maze and brought in experts, engineers, forensic analysts, and even paranormal investigators. Everyone wanted answers. The technicians ran tests on the mirror. It wasn't ordinary glass. Behind it, they found a complex network of wires, sensors, and cameras. Motion detectors. Internal lighting systems. A hidden microphone. But the strangest discovery was a tiny recording device storing over 200 hours of footage. None of it showed them all. None of it showed what was behind the mirror. Instead, the recordings revealed something else entirely: dark hallways, flickering lights, and shadows moving in impossible ways. Voices whispered in languages no one could identify. It was as if the mirror was a window into another place. Another dimension. Meanwhile, the missing persons files were reopened. Maria was not the first. In 2016, Vernon Carter, a janitor, vanished while cleaning that very mirror maze. In 2019, Paige Whitmore, a high school senior, disappeared after rehearsing in the same wing. Both vanished without any clues, both last seen near that cursed mirror. No bodies. No evidence. Just cold files and unanswered questions. Sleep became a stranger to me. I kept seeing her, Maria, in my dreams. Not as she was, but trapped, desperate to escape. One morning, I returned to the sealed-off area, telling myself I was only there for closure. But the mirror held something more. The handprint was gone, wiped clean. But when I looked closer, I saw a ripple in the reflection. A shimmer, like heat rising from asphalt. Then, just for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed lights inside the glass, hallways stretching endlessly, lit from within. But behind that wall, there was no hallway. And then, taped near the security panel, was a torn piece of cardboard with a message in Maria's handwriting. They're watching. The mirrors aren't reflections. They're listening. If I'm gone, don't look for me. And don't stare into them too long. They can hear thoughts. I showed the note to the FBI, but they took it without comment. I never saw it again. Despite the growing terror, no one laughed it off anymore. The agents looked afraid. That said everything. 2 days later, that mirror changed again. And this time, she showed herself. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when the mirror changed again. The FBI had reduced their presence. The public never found out what they discovered, only that the mirror maze was now permanently closed. Thick black drapes hung over the entrance, and armed security watched it 24/7. But I still had access. As head of mall operations, I had keys. Codes. And I had questions no one else wanted to ask. I walked past the velvet ropes and into the dark. The maze felt colder now, even without air conditioning. The lights were off. But the mirror at the end, that mirror, was glowing faintly. A bluish light from within. I took one step closer, then another. And then I saw her. Maria. But it wasn't a reflection. She was inside the mirror. She stood still, her uniform dirty, her face pale and tired. She didn't move at first, just stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Like she was watching a stranger. Then her lips moved. I couldn't hear anything. There was no sound. But I read her lips. Help me. My heart stopped. I raised my hand slowly, pressing it to the glass. She did the same. But our fingers didn't align. Her hand was slightly smaller. Wrong. As if she was an echo, not the real thing. That's when I noticed the bruise on her neck. Purple, deep, like a handprint. And a symbol scratched into her wrist, 3 vertical lines crossed by 1 horizontal. I pulled away. I ran. Back in the security office, I reviewed the CCTV footage from that moment. But the tape showed nothing. No light. No Maria. Just me, standing alone, hand on the mirror, talking to no one. Was I losing my mind? A few days later, a new body was discovered in the maintenance tunnels below the mall. It was badly decayed, clothing rotted, flesh dry like paper. But the watch, it was hers. Maria's. Same serial number. The FBI tried to keep it quiet. Claimed the body had been there the whole time. But how? That area had been searched dozens of times. Nothing was ever found. Unless something returned her body. Like it wanted us to know. People began whispering again. Staff quit. Parents refused to let their teens work late shifts. And I started to notice things. The mirrors throughout the mall began flickering. For seconds at a time, the reflections would shift. I'd see myself, standing still, while I walked away. Or shadows passing behind me when no one was there. Then one night, I found something taped to my office door. A drawing. Childlike. Crude. It showed a stick figure girl, inside a box. Surrounded by eyes. Below it were the words, scribbled in red ink. One got out. More want out. That night, I dreamed of Maria again. Only this time, she wasn't asking for help. She was warning me. They're not mirrors, she whispered. They're doors. And they're opening. I should have quit. I should have burned that whole mall down and walked away. But I didn't. Why? Because I needed to know what really happened to Maria. Because something was still watching. And because deep inside, I was starting to believe that I'd already been marked. 2 weeks after the drawing appeared on my door, things escalated. Customers began complaining of missing time. A woman entered a fitting room at 2:12 p.m. Security footage showed her walk in. She came out at 2:13, frantic, claiming she had been stuck inside for over an hour. Another man said he saw his reflection blink, when he hadn't. One of our janitors refused to clean near the old mirror maze. He told me, quietly, I keep hearing her call my name, and my mother's voice. But she died in 1994. I asked him if he ever knew Maria. He shook his head. She's not calling for help, he whispered. She's calling me in. That night, I made a decision. I would go back. One final time. I arrived after midnight. Lights off. Building locked. I carried nothing but a flashlight, a camera strapped to my chest, and a notebook in my pocket. I walked through the empty mall, every footstep echoing too loudly. Even the air felt thicker. Like walking underwater. When I reached the mirror maze, the drapes were already torn down. Someone, or something, wanted me there. Inside the maze, I turned on the camera. I began recording. Reflections twisted around me. I no longer looked like myself. In one mirror, I had no eyes. In another, I looked 20 years older. Then I heard it. Help, me. It was Maria's voice. Soft. Distant. I followed the sound deeper into the maze. At the end, the same mirror glowed again. But this time, it pulsed like it was alive. And she was there. But not alone. Behind Maria, dozens of shapes shifted in the darkness. Silhouettes. Watching. One of them stepped forward. Its face was mine. I backed away. I turned to run. And found myself right back at the entrance. No footsteps. No path. Just silence. The mirror was gone. I checked my camera. Nothing had recorded. The timestamp read 2:13 a.m., even though I was sure I had been inside for over an hour. After that night, the mall changed forever. The entire mirror maze was sealed off with concrete. Corporate fired most of the staff. They claimed the space would be renovated. But nothing was built there again. Just a blank, cold corner of the building. I don't work there anymore. I've moved 3 states away. But sometimes, I still hear Maria's voice. In dreams. In reflections. And one time, I saw a child at the store, staring into a mirror, whispering. They told me to wait. So now I'm telling this story. Because people need to know. It wasn't a haunted mirror. It wasn't just a tragedy. It was a door. And I think, we opened it too wide. Have you ever seen your reflection do something it shouldn't? Do you believe mirrors reflect us, or something else?